All right, so thanks everyone for attending this session. So my name is Rémi Cotin. I am an account director at mopub/Twitter, and it's my pleasure to be hosting this panel. So as Paddy said, we're going to discuss how to make the most of monetization channels while ensuring the highest user engagement. So I hope this session will be like as informative and interesting for you guys. We'll have like 5 minutes of Q&A at the end. And I'm delighted to be joined with 3 great panelists who are going to share their expertise on this topic. So thank you guys for taking the time to be here. So before we jump right into the questions, if you could introduce yourself and give like a brief summary about your role in your company.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa, and I've been with Wooga for a bit over a year. I started off in the UA team and am currently responsible for our ad revenues.
Aaron Yannick. I'm with Gram Games. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer there, responsible for monetization, both the ad side and in-app purchase.
Hello, Maria Nummenpää. Been working for Rovio for 5 years now, and currently leading the third-party ad monetization business.
Thank you. So let's start with the content. So first of all, the first question will be like around like ad formats. So we know that today developers face complex decisions. With today's arrays of ad formats, it can be tricky to find the right ad format to find the right balance between UX and revenue. So I think, Maria, it would be interesting to have your perspective from review of which ad formats are you leveraging right now?
Yeah, so throughout the years, we've actually utilized all these traditional ad formats, meaning the standard banners, static interstitials, and then moving towards videos. And now with all the newest game launches, we've been purely focusing on the rewarded videos. And the reason being that we see that those are the ones that actually add value for the players, while the others might actually be offering a bit bad user experience, not adding real value.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Ren?
On our side, we are a company that was heavily relying on ads as the main source of revenue so far. So we use all ad types, ad units. We use banners, interstitials, rewarded video heavily. More recently, actually, more rewarded video, but prior to that, more banners and interstitials. And it's a trade-off between how often you show ads and, of course, what the user experience evolves into. There's, of course, a limit, but good to test and find out.
Okay. And Wooga?
So within Wooga, we have both reward video and interstitials. Currently, we have about 90% of our ad revenues coming from reward video and just 10% from interstitials. Due to the opt-in format of rewarded video, we will continue to focus more on this format rather than interstitials.
Mm-hmm. So as you can understand from those descriptions, it seems that real video is really the main format being used, at least on this panel. So let me turn to the audience, and I think it would be good. It would be interesting for us to take the pulse on the audience to understand if you guys are as well using real video. So can you please raise your hand for all developers in the room who are actually using real video? Cool. Okay. Yeah. That's quite a lot. Yeah, I mean, AdColony was showing like a study, and it was interesting to see that 33% of mobile revenue was actually coming from real video. So the next questions are actually going to be like digging into real video specifically. So Lisa, speaking about real video specifically, so how? It would be interesting for us to understand how do you measure performance, and what would be like a good performance benchmark for you.
So looking at rewarded video specifically, I think there's not just one metric that you look at. We heavily look at the conversion rate or engagement rate of the different rewarded video placements. Next to that, we look at the number of impressions per DAU. We look at the eCPMs and how those go together with the different fill rates, but also at the ad ARPDAU. So I think for each of the games, the placements are different, and the metrics will therefore look different as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially for the ad types that are not rewarded video, they generally have an adverse effect on retention and lifetime, but slightly. So you need to have a very high retention, high lifetime game to introduce ads. But rewarded video has somewhat as a neutral to positive effect because it's opt-in. Players actually are happy when they've watched the rewarded video. So this reflects itself on both CPMs and other performance metrics. As Lisa said, ad ARPDAU is the main thing we look at. So we don't do a very granular analysis of the fill rates of that, but most likely say how many people adopt it and how many people watch it per day once they adopted it. So that reflects itself in ad ARPDAU.
Okay. And so for you, Maria, can you share us some few insights on what would be the impact of implementing reward video on the main game metrics? So, for example, like the time spent on the app, the retention rate, like and other stats.
Well, based on our experience, if the implementation is done well enough, it can actually have a positive impact on the engagement. And actually, one very interesting finding that we did recently with the research was that it was done in US and obviously for our games only. But it showed that if the rewarded videos are implemented well enough, they can actually be as effective as TV ads, which is a really promising result because from the brand perspective, mobile ads are usually much more cost efficient. So I think that's a very promising result, and that's the first this kind of research that we've done.
Nice, that's great. And for you, Lisa, what kind of impact are you seeing on those metrics?
I think an important finding that we have seen maybe between payers and non-payers within the game is that payers actually tend to engage much more with rewarded video ads, and I think this is makes sense because they are generally the more engaged user within the game, so naturally they will engage more with ads as well.
Mm-hmm. Like once again from the room, can you just show your hand if you are segmenting users, for example, like payers and non-payers? Okay, less people. Okay, still. Is it something that you are interested to do, for example, you at Grand Games?
We do. I mean, because we're reliant more on ads, this is something we recently started to do, the whole payer and non-payer, but it makes a big difference. And similar to the ads world, there you're actually reliant on a small subset of users, which correspond to the tail of your payers, right? So you need to identify the right people, and you need to segment to understand.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we spoke about metrics. So real video, how it impacts some metrics. The next big question is so IAPs. So of course, like IAPs is something which is very important, like for all developers. So there is like a big say that when you're gonna integrate like a real video, it might have like a downwards effect to your IPs. So at Rovio, have you seen this kind of things happening, or what's your experience between real video and IPs?
Again, I think it all goes back to the kind of the core game experience. So if the ad placements are part of the core gameplay and they fit well enough there, then actually the ads can support the IAP, and that's what we've actually experienced. So if the ads are taking into consideration already in the planning phase and they fit well, then these two can actually support each other. Even the traditional thinking might be that it's either or, but actually we've seen quite the opposite.
Okay. And what about you, Atpuga? Are you seeing the same thing?
Yes. Also, Wooga generally has been focusing quite a lot on IAPs only. So currently, our revenues are 85% coming from IAPs and 15% from ads. We have some games that have been on the market for a bit longer already, where we have a high focus on IAPs. So these games already have quite a complex economy within the game. So therefore, it's a bit more difficult to build on ads on top. So it takes a lot of building different placements, testing, and reiterating on that. For our newer games, we look at ad integrations much earlier. So pre-production, we already start talking about where are we going to place ads within the games and how do they fit together with the monetization through IAPs. So I think we currently, with an increased focus at Wooga on ad revenues, we try to look at it much earlier in the production process to make sure that both fit together very well.
It's super interesting. Like at Mopubs, we actually try to encourage having those like ad integration as early as possible during the game. Is it what is happening as well for you, like Aaron?
Yes. So we are probably at a different scale. So we were ad-based 100% and switching to in-app purchase, and it's rising. So currently in the game that we have, we're pretty much fully reliant on in-app purchase. We don't use rewarded videos, but we're thinking about using it. I think maybe one concern for teams with smaller sizes could be maybe the SDK integration and everything with rewarded video, whether or not from a technical perspective does it help. But for us, I think because we're more reliant on it, we had an easy time, and it always had a positive effect in the end to both monetization and retention.
Okay. And just to your point, Lisa, so you mentioned that like you actually incorporate reward video like integration as early in the game, like for new titles. Have you seen like different behaviors, in the users, any different performance when the reward video is just integrated, but in a game that is already like existing?
A good example there would be a game that we currently have in soft launch, June's Journey. This game has the 2 ad placements that it has really require the user to engage with it in order to progress within the game. So naturally, the conversion rate of users adopting or engaging with these ad placements is higher than in another game, Jelly Splash, for example, where ads have been built in a bit later, and it is of course a nice reward for the user to engage and progress faster, but it's not necessary as in June's Journey, the hidden object game. So that's a difference in adoption rate that we see there.
Okay. And for you, Maria, is it the same? Do you actually incorporate reward video ads like early in the process, like for your new games, for example? Do you actually incorporate like reward video ads like in the planning phase for new games, for example?
Yes. So they are already when the new games are in the planning phase, we take the ads there into consideration.
Okay.
And agree with Lisa's experience on the kind of it's quite different whether the placements are kind of added afterwards there and just put on top of the game, and then again if the ads are there right from the start, so it's quite different user experience, and of course you can actually see that in the results. So I think if using ads as a part of the monetization, it's a key thing to include them already in the planning phase and not just afterwards try to fit them in.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So now we're going to speak about like frequency capping and the actual type of rewards, So like a very specific question, but it would be interesting to understand like how did you come to make the right choice in terms of type of rewards and frequency capping? So Maria, if you can share with us like some of your experience in this topic.
This is again good question, and there are probably a zillion different answers. So there is just not one recipe how to do it, but
yeah, I would say for us, we like Maria said, there's a lot of different answers. It's a lot of testing and iterating and trying out what fits well and what works best. In the end, I think it's a balance that you need to find between not giving too much to the player, but also not being too greedy on what you give out. So it's a lot of trial and error. And then in terms of frequency capping, it's also a lot of trial and error. Like some placements, we have in June's Journey, for example, one placement that the user can only interact with once every 24 hours. If it's more than that, they will be able to progress through the game so fast that maybe in a couple weeks they have finished it. Other placements we have, for example, an out of lives placement in Bubble Island 2. If you are out of lives, you can watch a video to earn another life. But if you already have full lives, it doesn't make much sense to re-engage with this placement over and over again. So we put a frequency cap on it.
Okay.
Yeah, and to continue, it's for us it's also quite different in each game. For some games we actually have frequency cap of 48 hours, while some others are like a lot more available. But I think it's also key to build it smartly, because if you do it in a smart way, it can actually help you to grow the economy. But again, if you don't do it smart, actually that can have a pretty negative impact on your total revenues if it's utilizing both IAPs and ads.
Okay.
On our case, we actually spotted the difference when we used rewarded videos for, I don't know if anyone in the audience played, but 10, 10, and 6, for example. The rewarded videos there were embedded to get new skins, new colors, new themes, whereas in the more recent games we launched, in Bouncy, in Merge Town, they were part of the core game. So in order to progress, you did not have to watch rewarded videos, but if you watch it, it actually gives you like a good bump. I think the crucial difference there is, yes, if you make a player watch like 25 rewarded videos a day, the incremental value of every new video is actually becomes close to zero. Still not zero, but it becomes close to zero. That's why we didn't cap it. So we didn't cap it because we think it's not zero. And because it's not a multiplayer game, it doesn't disrupt the game balance. So it's a matter of how much you want to progress, especially in Merge Town. But if it's a more multiplayer game where there's an in-game economy, different balances and item prices that comes into play, then yes, I think from the game's sake, you need to cap it. But financially, at least from a monetization perspective, there's value in every new impression.
And in terms of A/B testing, do you A/B test more during the soft launch or as well when the game is out and live?
We do A/B tests, yeah, all the time. And soft launch as well, we try different variations with like more ads, less ads, more ads here. What happens when we keep everything similar but add one new rewarded video placement here? One thing we did not do yet is the relationship between different items of in-app purchase and rewarded video, like the balance of giving out too much, would that impact IAP? But that's also, we're starting to get into that, because every new change you make, especially at a scale of hundreds of thousands of daily active users, you need to test it. Otherwise, it's really risky.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. And so in terms of the new trends, in monetization, so it will be interesting to have your point of view in terms of, what do you think will be like the future? We hear like some buzzwords, like for example like advanced bidding. We hear some things like this. So what would be your thoughts in these new trends? Yeah.
I think for us, that's the thing that's really interesting is header bidding, because that's there you would be able to, close to real time, to estimate the actual value of an impression. And one thing we are trying to identify as a firm is spotting the ad whales. So spotting the people who are really valuable as a, by their IDFA, by their actual device that is for the ad networks, and go after them. So similar to what other companies do on in-app purchases, and we are doing an in-app purchase, do that in ads as well. Currently, we can spot it at a cohort basis, or if you work with a network in both user acquisition and monetization, then we can connect them and find them. But I think that's where the industry is heading into, to finding them, the real people who actually matter from an ads perspective, and hunt those people as users.
Like in Rovio, is it like is it a topic that was mentioned already, like header bidding, or is it something which is not yet? I mean, you might explore it in the future, or you started to explore it right now?
Yeah, obviously now talking from the ads perspective, so definitely real-time bidding, and also the programmatic buying is going to be the big thing for us, and we can already see that the programmatic buying is actually something that the brands are looking for, and obviously we are interested in kind of collecting the brand dollars that are there. So that's for sure in our focus going forward. Okay,
great. And I know that when we prepared this panel, so there was one point that that you guys mentioned is about like blocking, blocking some other games or other developers. So for example, you at Gram Games, do you actually block other games, like other developers, from accessing your inventory?
I mean, so far, we only blocked a few games that were clones of our games, and they wanted to use our inventory to advertise, but understandably, I guess. But otherwise, like, we don't block other games. Like, we don't block games to keep them off from the charts or stuff like that. We don't block games that are hyper casual and appeal to the same audience either, because in the end there's opportunity cost of blocking as well. So yes, maybe they appeal to the same audience, but I think we all strive for people's attention spans, and so the pie is growing so much that fighting for one slice wouldn't really make sense, at least at our scale.
Okay, that makes sense. Is it something that you do at Uga? Do you block like some?
We do some kind of blacklisting. I think this also depends for us a bit on the age of the game. If it's really new, we might blacklist some very competitive apps. But generally, my opinion is also not to try to blacklist too many things. And it's also people can play multiple games at the same time. So it's not necessarily that when you advertise other games that someone will leave your game immediately and focus 100% of their time on something else.
Yeah, fair enough. So we have a little bit more than 7 minutes left. I just want to make sure that we have some questions from the audience. So is there any questions?
Yeah. And I have the mic for that.
I think there is just one here.
Yeah, sorry. I'm blinded.
Hello, thank you very much for the panel. It was very interesting. My name is Stanislav. I'm interested in what is the average percent of users that engage with video. I know that you have lots of games, so just an average. How many people watch rewarded videos? And do you try to achieve 100%? Or are you okay with the current rates?
You mean like the adoption rate? Like
yes.
At least one video watched?
Yes.
So I'll give the worst answer and say it depends on the game. But it depends also where as I mentioned, like it depends on why you watch the rewarded video for. Like, so if it interferes with the core gameplay to progress, to give them an extra life, to give them an extra spell so that they can beat that level, the number can rise up to 70-80% of all your users. If you keep it at like, hey, here's a new color, new theme, new skin, then it might go as low as 30-40% at our case.
Yeah, I think for us it's similar. The example I mentioned earlier for June's journey, where you really need to progress, or you need to watch videos to progress in the game, the adoption rate will be much higher. As in a different game where you don't necessarily need it. I think 100% that you mentioned is not realistic to go for. I think on average we try to aim 60% adoption rate of rewarded video in the across the different games.
Okay, any more questions? Yes. Thank you.
I love reward videos because I get free stuff and I also use them for discovery of new games. But sometimes that experience of watching the ad can be various degrees of successful. Do you recommend any platforms over other platforms for delivering the experience in the best way?
Tricky question.
I'm impartial. I'm not part of that world.
So I think there's a few players out there that you can work with, and to my knowledge, or at this point, I don't think there's one that outperforms the other. Everybody, all of these partners have something that they are better at than the other, or worse at. I don't think that there is right now, or at least for us, one perfect partner to work with. But I think this also depends on your goals in terms of rewarded video, because what might be a good partner for Wooga might not fit for the needs of Rovio or Gram Games.
I think also best partner has multiple dimensions to it, right? You could have best partner in terms of CPMs, best partner in terms of video quality, technical interference with the game. I think up until maybe 6 months ago, there were 2-3 names that people generally preferred. Right now, more and more players are being active in it. And differences are becoming blurry, like less and less. So I think in a few months, it's going to be pretty much like banners or interstitials, so differences is going to be much less.
Yeah, I mean, Lisa's answer could have been mine, so.
Is there any other question?
Before you spoke about the impact of rewarded video, I was just wondering what the impact of playable ads has been for you in terms of retention and monetization.
Playable versus rewarded, or playable like?
Playable ads versus rewarded video.
At our case, we don't have a differentiated slot for playables. So we don't say show playable. Well, we don't say show rewarded but not playable. So depending on the CPM levels, depending on where the impression is located, the ad can be playable or not. It can even be, we even sometimes have interstitials with playables, which are annoying as from a player's perspective, but depending on the trade-off, we still allow that to happen. I know from a user acquisition perspective, playables work very well. So I assume even though we can't see individual impressions from a CPM level, they should be working well for us as well. Like we don't track it separately, but I believe we should be getting paid much better because of it. And this, I think, is something I would want to find out, really. Like once we have more granular information that, like, are we really getting better? But short answer should be from a CPM perspective, yes. Quality perspective, no, especially if it's not unrewarded.
Yes?
Hi. So obviously there's been a lot of experience in the market with rewarded video. Have you guys seen or planning or have you implemented any more innovative or creative ways to use rewarded video that you're excited about?
Yeah, go ahead. For us, I'm pretty excited about the placements that we have in June's Journey because they are such a big part of the game and they really help the user progress. And this is something that we haven't done yet before. And even though that the game is currently in soft launch, we see great numbers and great interaction. So I'm very excited to see how this develops when we globally launch the game next month.
So in Mergetown, I don't know if anybody's played it, but if you make an in-app purchase, the ads disappear except rewarded, because we want the player to be able to continue to watch rewarded because it's a voluntary ad, right? They actually like to watch it, get a mystery box that could be a random level building, and however much you progress in the game, the mystery box output is also that much better. With every merge move, you increase the chances of having a better building that comes out of the mystery box through the rewarded video you watch. And if you don't like the outcome, you can watch another one and upgrade the building. So this is something that we implemented. Actually, my dad's a big player, and he says he watched maybe 200 videos over the past week. So it's, I mean, at least from my sample size of one, it seems to work.
Did you want to add anything, Maria? Oh, yeah. Right on time. We are right on time. Yep. Perfect. Well, thank you very much for attending the session. I hope it was informative, and that you took some things away. So yeah, now I think the lunch is ready. So thank you for staying here. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can come to us and ask any questions after this panel. Thank you very much.